Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the debrief. Geo, where do you want to start?
I'm not even sure, to be honest. I guess, as always, we normally say, "How are you?" So I guess I'll start with my feelings and emotions this morning. And truth be told, Charlie, I'm actually all right. Last week I was angry on Monday, post Fulham defeat. But that's because I expected to win and I had hopes that we could get European football again. Whereas that expectancy
Yeah.
yesterday wasn't there. And then when as you know, when we did the build-up show and I saw the lineups, I thought actually we're going to lose this game. Not in that manner and not that scoreline, admittedly, but I didn't think we'd win. I thought we would lose. No Jaibo is significant, but my hope for European football was a slither, and that was it. So actually, this morning I'm resigned. I've got little anger, little care, I guess, to be honest with you. And sometimes, like after Fulham and whatever, sometimes my friends would message me about getting beaten. It would wind me up. They'd be trying to wind me up, and it would work occasionally. But actually, last night when they were trying to probe me, got a text. What time is it? And I sent a question mark back, and I got 5 past West Ham. Yeah, very funny. Wasn't bothered. Was not bothered. I was like, whatever. Not that arsed. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm just sort of looking forward to the summer now a little bit. We've obviously still got 4 games, and I look forward to watching them to some extent. But the expectancy doesn't exist anymore now, and it's sort of just getting through. And hopefully, we can look forward to the summer. And it's a big summer for the football club. And yeah, I've sort of got one eye on that now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think. I think. Well, for example, where is it? I just saw it. Where is it? How have I lost it already? It was literally in front of me 2 seconds ago. Whoever it was in the chat, somehow I'm missing you, and I apologize. Talking about the most annoyed you've ever been at a game yesterday. There you go. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Harrogate, the most angry I've been watching a game. It was pathetic.
I don't know how I managed to miss you, Harrogate. I saw it, I read it, I went, that's something I'm going to reference in a second. And then I just couldn't find it. A lot like West Ham players in the ball yesterday. It wasn't even angry, after it was angry for the first two. And then once the third one went in, I was just like, this is comical. This is a joke. Like I have seen, like, obviously we're all West Ham fans. We've seen some god awful West Ham defensive performances. I've watched Roger Johnson at the Etihad. Right, I've seen some bad performances defensively. I'm not even sure there was a defensive performance. I'm not even sure they were on the pitch, Gio. I kept comparing it to ghosts because they just walked through us. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't difficult. The amount of times, I mean, the obvious one that's replaying in my head over and over again is the Mateta goal where he just passes it through Kurt Zuma, who stood still, and then he's in behind with not a single person there. And it's that stuff that I was rewatching the goals this morning. Show me a goal, I'll show you an error. I don't even know if I could show you an error. There was just nothing. It was just awful. There's either so many errors or no errors because no one's doing a single thing. It was incredible. And I've seen the bad defensive performances before, but it was just something else. It was just something else. And that's not to belittle Crystal Palace, as you said on the review yesterday. Look, Crystal Palace were really good. That front three specifically was so good together. Eze on the half turn, collecting it, almost playing a bit like when Paqueta ends up playing up front and he has that sort of hold up role, and he's way better at it than I would have ever thought Eze would be at it. Olise causing problems. Mateta actually dropping deep a bit like Boniface was against us for Leverkusen, dropping deep, dictating play a bit. I mean, they were so impressive. And that's not to denigrate them or to reduce what they did at all. But my God, I mean, if there was ever a damning indictment, I mean, specifically on Zuma and Ogbonna, where they're at in their careers, um, I I don't know if you, I don't know if you can you even play them again after that? It was so bad. Both of them were absolutely unbelievably bad.
Yeah, the thing is, we were down to sort of bare bones at centre back, but this is where in previous games there's been an opportunity where you could have played Casey. There has been Bristol City. There has been not many, 5 or 6 games where actually you could have put him on. There's been games that we either comfortably in control of or were comfortably out of that you could have taken Casey on for the last 15. And yesterday was another game where actually at halftime you could have taken Casey on at halftime you wanted to. But there has been previous games where you could have blooded him. You could have seen if he's up to scratch at Premier League football, if he was okay, or if he'd be a bit like a rabbit in headlights. give him those appearances. So by the time he's making his 4th or 5th one, it's no longer, it's got that shock culture to him. But because we haven't done that, you couldn't use him yesterday from the start. He should have been an option from the start if he didn't want to go Ogbonna and Zuma. But because of the fact that we haven't blooded him so far and we haven't got him ready, he's not an option. He doesn't feel comfortable playing him. And that's the biggest frustration for me, really, because I don't mind Moyes saying, I like a small squad. It doesn't bother me. 17 senior players or something, that's fine. I get it. As I always say, Pep Guardiola has a small squad.
Yeah.
Pep Guardiola has, or it could be 1 or 2 out by now, but certainly halfway through the season, Pep Guardiola had used the least amount of players in the Premier League. Out of every club, he had used the least players. But the difference is he uses every single one of them. And then on top of that, he's not afraid to bring the youth in if he requires. So Rico Lewis, Oscar Bob, he's not afraid to put a youngster in if he feels they're good enough. And that's the surplus to his squad. So rather than having 25 senior players and 7 or 8 of them are only there on emergencies, he's got his 17 senior players. Then his younger players are there for the emergencies. So I don't mind Moyes saying I prefer a small squad, but you've got to use it. You've got to use all of them. You can't just use 13. And this is why I get frustrated when people say, well, it's his problem. Like a small. I don't think the small squad is the issue. It's not using the small squad. That's the issue.
I agree.
But yesterday, again, I've started to get really angry about weird things. So during the game, I was pissed off about the performance and stuff. But by the second half, my head had gone, Charlie. The second half watching that, my head was like, I was a bit like Cardigate for 45 minutes, but the second half, it was no longer angry at the performance of that. I started getting angry at stuff that I shouldn't get angry about, like the subs. When Creswell come on, then when I saw Ings and Phillips coming on, I was angry at that. I was like, what are you doing? What's the point in this? I was getting angry at that rather than the performance of the players on the pitch.
Yeah.
And then when I seen us do a long throw at 4-0 down, I was thinking, why are we acting like it's 1-1 in the 90th minute? I've still never seen us do anything with a long throw, and we continue to do it. Same as short corners. Never seen us do anything with a short corner. Stop it. Now we've stopped them. We continue just doing like long throws. I'm like, there's people at the club are far more educated than you and I, Charlie, and earn a lot more money than you and I. Well, they're probably not on a lot of money in comparison to the Premier League per se, but they're on a decent wage. Who are paid to study the previous game and come up with an analysis and present it to Darren Moyes and the coaching staff. They will watch the game back from what Jack and you do on Analytics. They look at it from that aspect, right? Remove emotion. Let's look at it. At some point, they've had to have looked at our long throws and go, this doesn't work. Like against Leverkusen, we did like 4. It generally allows the other team to launch counterattacks against us because we pull both centre backs up and leave a slow fullback on the halfway line. It's like, do they present this information to the coaching team, or does the coaching team it's things like that I was actually getting annoyed about yesterday, which is a shame because I shouldn't be like that. I should be watching the game. But I was. But I was more just sitting there, just getting angry at long throws and subs, and that's where I'm at yesterday.
The thing is with the subs, right? And I know this is something most people disagree with. I was fine with the halftime subs, and I saw what he was trying to do, and I got it, and I agreed with it. It's not the subs I would have made, but fine, whatever. I at least saw what he was trying to do, and I agreed we needed to get more control of the game. Every time they pressed Zuma and Ogbonna, we were getting absolutely destroyed. So I agreed with what he was doing there. My problem with the subs was the Ings and Phillips one, because that really is like Cresswell, obviously, like you mentioned it, I think in general review potentially, like Cresswell and Johnson, obviously their contracts come to an end. Hopefully Johnson stays, but Cresswell's definitely going and stuff like that. But like Phillips, we know for a fact isn't staying. Ings, we actively want to get rid of, and those were straight. They were straight subs. They were like for like. I mean, like ability and whatever, but like positionally, they were like for like. You weren't trying to change anything with these 2 subs, right? And in that sense, why not with Bammer and Orford? Why not? Like, because what's the point? What are we doing here? You know for a fact Phillips is leaving. We are actively trying to get rid of Danny Ings. And so what's the point in bringing those 2 on? One, neither of them are really going to change the game that much anyway. I'm not even saying in the build-up show, I was listening to it as I was running around getting ready, and you and Gonzo were talking about Phillips. And it was one of those moments where, and I'm sure everyone in the chat has having it right now, where you just want to say something at the screen. You're like, I just need to say something. Before the game, I almost felt like saying, I don't even know what the point of Phillips being here anymore is, because the time of which him being useful is past. We needed him when the European games were happening. That was the moment we brought him in for, when we had too many games and we would have to rotate. And in my head, I was like, when we signed Phillips, I had hopes that he could change certain things and he brings something different to our midfield and all this stuff. But those were the moments where we'd have to rotate, or where Alvarez would inevitably get suspended or whatever. That's past now. We're done. We're past that. So what's the point in him being here? There's no point in him being here at all. And so I was almost like, I don't even think he's ever going to come on again, let alone anything. And he came on instead of Orford, which is just crazy to me. And I get it. I understand the sort of like senior over everything. I understand that. But when you're in a position where you're probably going to leave, the senior player you're playing is probably going to leave, and you've got a youth player there who has been playing really, really well.
You're
What's the
5-1
point?
down.
What's the point? And again, in other scenarios when we're getting battered, I understand not bringing on a youth player because it can be damaging, and how you introduce youth players into a squad is really important. I understand that. But in that scenario specifically, there was no reason not to do it. Equally, I actually think it would benefit Moyes more to have played Orford. And I'm not even talking about from a fan perspective, although from a fan perspective, yes, it would have been something to do. But like, if he does want to stay, if Moyes does have some idea of wanting to stay past this summer, showing to whoever's in charge, be it Steiden, Sullivan, whoever it is, actually, yeah, I am going to start. Here's a youth player that I'm interested in. Let's start investing in him over this guy who everyone would expect me to play. Blah blah blah. That's the sort of signal it sends, and I find it completely bizarre because we weren't going to win that game. We weren't going to come back into that game. I mean, amazingly, Calvin Phillips ended up playing that ball to Cornet, which was actually quite good. But like, it just is. It's so baffling to me that was the decision. Half time, I understood, and I somewhat agreed with, even though they're not the subs I would have made. What are you doing? What's the point here? What are we doing here? Really, honestly, genuinely, what are we doing?
Yeah, especially at that 5-1, because the Palace weren't trying anymore. They were taking off Olise as well. They were calming the game down and going, it's done now.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not like he was coming in. Orford would have been coming to a fast-paced game where he would have struggled with the movement of Palace's number 10s and that. It was done. It was quite a slow tempo. We actually had a little bit of a grip on the second half. Now, obviously, we were 5-1 down. We were never in it, but there was no. The defense wasn't really being put under any pressure. The game was largely played in the middle third. It was an easy situation, but he just doesn't care. Moyes just doesn't care. And there'd be no point in bringing on. When you say, like, if he had any chance of or any desire to stay, if you put him on and shows, I'd like to think the club wouldn't pay any attention to that and they would look at it for what it was, which is you're only playing him because you're 5-1 down. But it would have meant a lot to Orford, and it's just, I don't know. Like I said in the review yesterday, I think it sums up Moyes' tenure, those substitutions, which I'm going to bring on old players. I'm going to not change the formation. I'm just going to stick with what we're doing, even though it's not working. Because basically, he doesn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do. When Xabi Alonso changed it on Thursday night and Leverkusen started to control the game second half, Moyes did not know what to do. He had no response for it. He just stood there watching the new Leverkusen setup dominating the game, and he didn't know how to alter it in order to respond to Xabi Alonso's tactics. Yesterday, that midfield pairing, two centre midfielders, two number 10s. We didn't know what to do. We couldn't get a grip of Eze and Olise. Emerson and Soufal didn't know where to come in field with them or to pass them on to Alvarez and Souček. But in doing so, Ward-Prowse then had Wharton and Olise because Paqueta was out wide and Kudus was out wide. So there was absolutely no communication. There was no plan. Nobody knew what they're doing. You could literally see the players arguing with each other about who's picking up who. They did not know. Ward-Prowse didn't know who he was meant to be marking. You could literally see him saying to the likes of Zuma and Souček, like, who's getting this guy? They didn't know. Yeah. They weren't aware of who was meant to be getting him. But Crystal Palace played in the same way they played at Anfield literally a week ago. It was a week ago. If you watch them at Anfield with the way that Eze and Olise were coming in field and they were doing their sort of square they call it a box these days, don't they, Charlie? I call it a square. A square midfield, two sitting midfielders and 2 number 10. The box. They did that at Anfield. We didn't know what to do. They had their 4, and our 2 were in the middle of them going, hang on a minute, what's going on? They're passing it through us to those guys, and nobody's marking them. The players generally did not know how to deal with it. As the half rumbled on, they still didn't know how to deal with it. And we came out in the second half, and we still didn't know how to deal with it. Moyes had no response for anything Glasner did yesterday. His reaction was at halftime, let's just go to 3 at the back. I generally felt we were defending a 4-1 defeat. Honestly, we were defending a 4-1 defeat. I could not believe it. It was almost like, right, let's just not get 5 or 6 here, which to some extent I get.
It's the thing is with the subs at half time, I was fine with it, and this is why, because we kept getting pressed, so we needed ball players in there. Because Zuma and Ogbono's performances yesterday defensively were utterly shocking, so getting rid of them in some form would have been a benefit. But also, like, every time they got pressed, we were just a mess. And you only have to look at I can't remember which one it was, Geo. It was one of the 4 in the first half, where Zuma goes to play at yeah.
And Olise gets it, and
Olise then pulls it back across, which is beautiful because you have the awful pass out, which was completely pointless, and I genuinely just pass it back. I don't know what you're trying to do, or punt it long. One of the two. Just don't do the one thing you're trying to do, and then you get the other side of it where there's no defending at the other side of it. So I understand that, and I don't. And again, I know most people disagree with me. I don't think that was a defensive move. I actually think that was a tactical change. I don't think it was a defensive move. But just like, I wish I could say that about I wish I could say I saw it bear fruition in some sort of attacking sense. And I think there was maybe a 10-minute period after half time where I did see a little bit more. Soufal and Emerson were able to sort of stay further forward than they were previously, because, you know, David Moyes teams, they attack like the diamond. They want to go out and then back in again. And that helped a little bit, but it really was like Palace have stepped off the gear.
In the 50th minute yesterday, Charlie, we had 4 fullbacks on the pitch.
Yeah.
Good. Anyway, so we'll take some comments for the next 8 minutes or so before wrapping this one up.
Yeah, I mean, as Robert said here, we knew the danger from Palace. Did Moyes not know? I mean, it's quite fitting.
He did. The thing is, right, I say defend Moyes. Some people just 100% blame Moyes for yesterday. I think he's culpable, but I think the players are as well. But I can't even defend or even try, just to play devil's advocate here with Robert. I cannot even make something up that I don't necessarily believe, but there's an argument there, because he didn't know the danger of Eze and Olise. There's literally no proof yesterday until the second half that Moyes knew how to handle either of them. What Palace did was almost a shock to David Moyes, despite the fact that they did this at Anfield last week. This man, Stuart Pearce, told us, he studies the opposition meticulously before we play them. Really?
He just happens to come up with the exact same answer.
The thing is, right, if you'd said to me, a gobby Scotsman on a webcam, list 10 things we've got to be wary of about Crystal Palace, number 1 would have been Eze and Olise drifting in field and both playing as number 10 in behind Mateta. That would be it. The positions that those pick up would be the top of the list, right? We had absolutely zero idea or plan. It was almost like a shock that they did what they did, which shouldn't be. I don't know. It's unforgivable. It's unforgivable from the coaching team, Moyes, and the players. It's just completely unforgivable.
Yeah, Husey says, morning guys, great show as always, thank you. I really feel for Cornet, genuinely hope a new manager to give him a chance and he performs in training. I mean, like, Palace were done by this point, don't get me wrong. But I thought Cornet showed glimpses of something that we didn't have for the rest of the game, playing in a sort of more central position, just running in behind. There's the obvious chance where Phillips plays it over the top. And then also I feel like they were done, but it's just like, I just look at it and I'm just some glimpse of, I guess Ben Johnson was okay as well when he came on. He showed a willingness to grab and I think that's, do you know what, Gio, it's what you just said. I'm beating around the bush, I guess. This is exactly what you just said. When I think about what Ben Johnson did or what Cornet did, I'm just saying, or Ben Johnson, for example, he picks up the ball and he drives through sort of 4 or 5 players. They weren't really much close to him, but he gets through him, a bit like what I used to complain about Declan Rice. And everyone's like, he's such a good dribbler. I'm like, no one's close to him. Ben Johnson, what a dribble, right? How is that standout compared to the rest of the performance? Because what you're saying there, and obviously David Moyes is going to catch the most amount of flack. He already has, and he should do, right? Obviously, we set up wrong. He picked the wrong players. He made the wrong subs. He got it wrong almost for 90 minutes non-stop, right? So obviously he is. But the fact that I'm looking at Ben Johnson picking up the ball and dribbling a bit forward, or Maxwell Cornet making a bit of a run in behind, and thinking, oh, look at him go. That's something we haven't had. The players were it was unbelievable. Paqueta. Sorry, I know this is a bit random related to the video, but Paqueta, I was sat there thinking, this is going to be a huge game for him today. He's come back in, he's had a rest, he's had some crap performances recently, and we're going to need something here. This is going to be, without Bowen, we're going to need a bit of something here to make it happen. That guy was shocking. He was awful. He was truly, truly awful. To the point where I'm looking at Ben Johnson do a bit of a run, and I'm like, oh, there's a thing.
I don't like when people say that his head's not here, or he's checked out, or he's got one eye on a move, and I find that's like the extreme. That's like the final phrase you can say about a player. It's a bit like when the manager's lost the dressing room. It feels like there's no coming back from that. Yeah. And I don't like using either phrase. I think it's used in extreme scenarios only, and I think it can be a phrase that's labelled too quickly and easily at players and managers when I don't think it's necessarily true. But it's hard not to look at Paqueta yesterday and think that guy is halfway out of West Ham already, because there's just nothing from him, and it's the fourth game I felt like that now. It's the fourth game in a row. Not even good performances in between these ones. Four games in a row now. I feel like he just doesn't look like he wants to be here. He doesn't look like he can be arsed. I wouldn't play him between now and the end of the season. I'm not sure I'd play him, truth be told. But then I'm a gobby Scotsman and an angry little bugger sometimes. So I'd be like, drop that guy and let's give Lewis Orford game time, and George Earthy will be back and available for the Liverpool game. I'd rather see George Earthy than Lucas Paqueta at this moment. And I appreciate him probably just being a bit reactive, and I might change my mind during the week. But as it stands, I'd be okay. Well, if you do want to go to Man City, that's okay. You go with our blessing, but you will not be participating in the remaining 4 games, and you can take your place on the bench, because his performances have just been stinking, Charlie. They're actually, some players play poorly, and that's that. Yeah. So I think yesterday Thomas Souček played poorly. Did it impact us? Not really. I think he could have done a lot of things better, of course, but I think he should start against Liverpool. Paqueta was generally that much of a hindrance. It was benefiting Crystal Palace having Lucas Paqueta in the West Ham team yesterday.
I agree. I almost had a similar thought in the opposite direction with the Leverkusen match. I almost thought because we needed to play such fast football, it was almost helps us not having Paqueta because he is such a slow player. And that's fine. Like, I'm not talking about sprint speed. I'm talking about specifically he collects the ball. He wants to drag people towards him. He wants to take his time with it. He wants to sort of play that style of football. And so I thought to myself against Leverkusen, it was almost beneficial to an extent, him not being in there. Man, like it's the same thing, but the exact opposite. It would have been very beneficial for him not to be there, because when he's bad and he's taking too long on the ball and then losing it with stupid maneuvers and stupid passes, my God. And here's the thing, right? I wanna sit here and say, oh, it's because he thinks he's going to City. Like Dean said it, you were saying it just there. Like the idea of, oh, he's off to City already. He thinks this. If I'm a football player and I'm about to move to arguably the best team in Europe, I don't think you can get away with performances like this. I'm not saying City might have agreed personal terms with him, but they certainly haven't activated any release clauses. And if they're watching his performances over the last month and potentially coming forward for the next couple of games and going, hang on, he's completely and utterly either checked out or just awful at this. Is this someone we want in our team who's just going to walk about? Pep's legendary for just screaming at people for not even trying 10 out of 10 at times. You see it at times where he's done it to opposition players when they're not trying.
He's barking at Foden for trying to score a second goal against Chelsea in the semi-final rather than keep the ball and just play it out. It was like 90-something minutes on the clock and he had the ball and there's a counter-attack for City and Foden tried a bit of like an adventurous pass and it didn't work out, and Pep was going mental at him, and you could see Pep literally saying to him, you know, use your head. What are you doing? Use your head. Just slow the game down and keep the ball in Chelsea's thirds. What are you doing? But all right, let's take some comments, Charlie, before we disappear quickly. He said, Jug said, I know there's prize money difference between 8th and 12th. Means no difference to him. Give the kids a chance who want to play. I agree with that. It gives us something to look forward to as well. Carl says Paqueta's checked out in the worst performance in a West Ham shirt. I didn't want to get rid when he ain't got a smile on his face. He's just awful right now. And in this form, 85 million would be okay. Gaz said, what a rubbish show that was yesterday from West Ham. I'm still extremely grumpy, as I have been for most of the season. Can't wait till it's over now and he's gone. The player has given up. Navidis, I see your comments about Lopetegui, but we're going to try and stick to like the game itself, and I'll cover the Lopetegui thing in tomorrow or Wednesday or something. I'll put it this way, though. I don't want Lopetegui. Mark says Sullivan's too gutless to either get rid or give him a new contract at the end of the season. Everyone, including Moyes, knows he needs to go, but nothing will happen until the end of the season now. Barry said yesterday that we should double up on Eze and Olise or we'd get smashed. Moyes is a bit daft, not knowing how to use his team. Kane is begging to be noticed. I almost feel sorry for Kane, the way he runs around. He actually tries when he comes on as well. He did it against Fulham. He came on in the last 5 minutes. He's running around buzzing. I'm like, oh, mate, this is like, I appreciate it, but it's almost a bit... Just stop. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's just infinitely said if Sullivan's worried about prize money, then keeping Moyes will cost him more than the compensation to sack. I mean, the compensation to sack him now would be like 100 grand or something. It was not much at all. Steve says too often this season we start a match looking laboured as if they won't want to be there. Then they can turn it on. Like first half last week, their mindset seems off. So there you go. So,
any final comments before we end it, Gio?
Well, one from Fitz says, I checked out the Palace game after we went 2 goals down. Personally, I think Moyes needs to go now. We need a good clear out at the end of the season. All I'll say is, yesterday was terrible from everybody involved. And it's just sad that the season is ending this way. And it's every season, not so much last season because we're in a relegation battle and we got out of it. But the 2 seasons before that, we finished 6th was really good. But we were in the hunt for a Champions League spot for the majority of it, and we ended up finishing 6th. It was a good result, which I would have taken in August, but he offered it to me in January. I wouldn't have taken it. That's why I always say when Lingard joined, did he get us European football? Technically, yes, but we were 4th when he joined, and we ended up finishing 6th. So despite his incredible form, we actually slipped down the table. And then with the season, we finished 7th. We were in the top 6 all season until the last game of the season. We dropped down to 7th. Well, here we are in a shout of European football, 6 games out, 4 games out. We're out of a shout for European football. And it's just, I guess, sad that a season with so much promise is ending on such a whimper. But that's been the case for quite a few seasons now. You could go back to Allardyce and Bilic, who were in good positions at Christmas, do nothing in the January transfer window, and the season just peters out. But a horrific day yesterday. But there's certainly no pressure on us now for the first time this season. There's no pressure on us going into the remaining 4 games in the sense that no one's expecting anything. Pathetic yesterday, though.
Not from us, though, and you'll be able to watch more stuff from us if you subscribe and like the video down below. We'll be back for, Gio will be back later on this evening. And then, of course, leading up into the next match is Liverpool. Liverpool's next, right?
Liverpool, Saturday, 12:30.
There you go. We'll be doing, of course, our preview 2 days before. Build up, watch along, all that good stuff, and all the videos in between. So make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification button so you don't miss out on any future videos. And we will see you next time. Cheers, everyone. Bye.